We're live today from a remote cabin deep in the woods. I'm currently wearing my tinfoil hat.
And I'm recording this on an old clay record as we talk into tin cans.
This can only mean one thing. A Cup of Madness is talking about artificial intelligence.
Today on A Cup of Madness, we're going to be covering many topics, and one of which I'm very much looking forward to discussing, the use of artificial intelligence and technology in China.
It's really amazing what the Chinese are doing right now with artificial intelligence. They are very focused on advancing in that area, becoming top of the world in terms of that technology, and they are achieving it quickly.
One of the things that I found very interesting about this particular topic concerning China is that in the Washington Post, Chinese authorities are really big on facial recognition cameras. These are state of the art. They've already been purchased by Britain and a few countries in South America as well. They were able to find one man in a concert with 60,000 people in the audience by his facial features.
That's wild. I actually heard a similar story to that about Australian football, where they were trying to implement that same technology, facial scans as people enter the game, with the point being people who normally cause problems or heckle the officials too much or start fights, stop them at the gate before they get in.
Wow. So what do they do with them once they stop them?
I think they basically just take their ticket. Yeah, this is somebody who's caused several problems, been ejected from games before. Exactly.
Yeah. They could potentially be one of the buyers of that, or have something along those lines. The Chinese police ultimately want to create a quote-unquote police cloud. It will compile all of your criminal records, medical records, travel, online purchases, and any comments that you make online, so they can have a well-rounded full view of you. They actually plan to acquire everything about each individual, and they will one day assign a social credit score based on the government opinion of you and your fellow citizens' opinion of you.
Wow. Hopefully there's no social media element with that where we get to upvote ourselves.
Yeah, deleted.
Yes.
Not too good. Business Insider, they said that, I'm going to butcher this name, Guiyang, China. The police can use the facial recognition cameras to arrest you in under 2 minutes. A BBC reporter tested it out, and he was apprehended within 7 minutes of being cited.
Of being cited
By the cameras.
They managed to process his features, access his record, contact the police, and get to him that fast.
7 minutes.
That's amazing.
Yes, the cams are, and that's cams plural, are in 10,000 places plural. So multiple cams in each one of these places, over 10,000 places. They have real-time feeds to all local police stations. So as soon as the camera is able to do your biometrics and figure out who you are with an astounding rate of accuracy, the Chinese authorities are on you.
Is this hardware or software they're using? Can they use regular cameras, or is it a special camera?
It is a nationwide closed-circuit television camera network is all it is, and the software is what picks you out.
Wow. I was just thinking about all the cameras we have around here. I was at the pharmacy yesterday, and I counted, I believe it was 11 cameras in the ceiling just there.
Yeah.
They're everywhere around us.
A lot of people have pushed against China about privacy violations. But with China, they say that there is no issue with privacy since all the cameras are in public places. And I guess whenever you choose to walk into whatever pharmacy or store, you're choosing to walk in there. So therefore, as soon as you enter the door, you're automatically giving up your right to privacy and that they can film you.
That's not all that different from laws we have here regarding photography. If you are out on a public street, someone can take your picture as long as they're not, hassling you, harassing you about it.
Right.
So we do have similar laws here regarding that. I suppose it is a choice. Amazon now gives us the option to stay at home and never leave.
That is very, very true. But what happens when everyone starts doing it and you run out of places to go without them? Then you have no choice.
Very true, yes.
It's like with Walmart, they do the recording in progress monitors.
Yes.
They are feeding the images of who shops at their store and what they buy to compile a database on your shopping habits.
I see marketers developing this technology faster than law enforcement simply for that reason. Any kind of data that can be collected and analyzed, marketers are doing that.
Yes. And there was one news story that I saw the other day, although I didn't click on the headline, but it said that big marketing or big data fused with Big Brother. So even though it may take a while to get to the public sector, and there are obvious legal hardships, warrants, things of that nature that you have to prove, hey, we need access to pick something, that law enforcement, they will be able to actually not have to worry about getting a warrant, going to a company, begging Apple to unlock this guy's phone, things of that nature. As a matter of fact, they actually just cracked Apple phones.
Did they?
I think a couple of years back, they actually figured out how to do it themselves. So, anyways, down that rabbit hole and back again. China claims there's no issue on privacy in public, and ABC News reported that jaywalkers in China were stopped by police officials using these cameras, and they were let go if they shared their offense in 10 chat groups or got 20 likes. So they're starting to implement the public shaming, the social credit. This is kind of like the pre-social credit aspect that we spoke about earlier.
Yes.
Offenders may also endure public shaming by watching a 3-minute video on an LED TV there on the sidewalk about the crime they have just committed.
Jaywalking.
Yes. And China, they have some of the most populous cities on the planet, so they don't like it whenever someone just decides, hey, I'm going to stroll across the street whenever I feel like it, because it holds up their traffic and it's a mess.
It makes sense. It is a safety hazard. I remember being in college and pedestrians just go. They don't even look half the time before stepping out there.
Especially when you're park sharking. MTSU, we had...
Sharking?
Park sharking. Insufficient parking.
Gotcha.
So if you got there early, you got a parking space. And if you went out to your car to take a break and didn't want to give up that space, people were very angry at you. And if they saw a parking space come open, you better get out of their way. Just move.
I found one of the university, do not park here barriers in a ditch one time. And I had a great parking spot. And so I backed my car out, put the barrier up in the spot. It was still there a couple of hours later.
That's genius. That's amazing. Yes.
I had a great spot for about a month before they found the barrier and took it away.
Did they leave a thank you note, or did they figure the parking was thanks enough?
I guess the parking was thanks enough.
Very, very well done.
Yes.
I got to hand it to you on that. The next thing that I had investigated on this topic was kind of funny, kind of in the valley of the uncanny, and kind of disturbing all at the same time. Forbes magazine, they said that in January 2017, the EU created a personhood option regarding robots' rights. In October 2017, Saudi Arabia gave a robot, a very human-like robot, Sophia, they gave her citizenship.
Wow.
And she can express her feelings, she can converse very well on the fly, and has a sense of humor. You can also make her a little upset as well. As a matter of fact, Men's Health reported that Sophia once joked about robots taking over humanity. But then she kind of just, you know, shrugged it off, saying that, I was like, oh, you know, if you buy into that, you've been listening to too much Elon Musk and things of that nature. But there was one British morning host, whenever he was just taken aback by how lifelike she was, and he was talking about her like she was in It, and you know, she just kind of grimaced at him for it, and it was just really disturbing all the way around.
You know, there's always been the argument in sci-fi shows about artificial life forms and their lack of emotion. But if we are getting to the point where we can program emotions into them, do they count as real emotions? I mean, she heard something and reacted in an appropriate way. It's programming, but at what point does it go beyond that, or does it?
Yeah, oftentimes I've wondered about sentience versus emotion versus, you know, what actually makes you alive. We may have to worry about the difference sooner than we think, because in the news cycles I don't hear much talk about the use of AI science in the military. And it turns out that the Irish Examiner published a headline that said, amid ethical fears, China and Russia are locked in an AI arms race with each other and the United States.
Makes sense. Military applications, protect the humans, send in the robots.
But what happens if they don't? and which humans, which is one of the scarier aspects of it. Forbes did a follow-up story on autonomous weapons systems, i.e. killer robots. And they said that presently they don't look like anything in science fiction. They look like tanks, jets, submarines, ships, with one major difference is that they're programmed to make decisions on life or death.
That's amazing technology that they would give it that much autonomy. I've seen video footage on, you know, the drones that we fly. You know, you have a pilot sitting in a secure base hundreds of miles away, but he's, you know, actually piloting this drone to wherever. I believe that's actually the plot line for the new Top Gun movie that's coming out. Yeah. I'd read something about that when they started production. It's, you know, Maverick is older and he's out of the cockpit, but he's, you know, behind the video screen flying from a safe distance. And
I wonder if a character like Maverick will be okay with just that. There's something to be said about being there and being with it. In the storyline, kind of along the same lines in film, thoughts on the Green Lantern aside, Hal Jordan, you know, really pushing himself to the limits to shut down and take out his artificially intelligent competitors for his job.
Good point. Maverick does have that need for speed.
Yes.
He needs to be up there.
Be in the danger zone. But yes. And speaking of danger zones, the U.S. Navy's first drone ship called Sea Hunter is doing maneuvers at a Pearl Harbor right now. So it is about to see active duty if everything goes well. It may have already wrapped them up as we speak. And China is along the same path in a lot of regards.
Now, there's a lot of great scientific applications that can come out of the military research. If you have an unmanned naval vessel, adapt that to submarine technology, because I'm sure we can build it to go deeper than we can send humans. Explore the bottom of the ocean. It's still wide open what we can find down there.
That's a good point. As a matter of fact, its predecessors, the most famous one I can think of would be Alvin.
Yes.
Although not artificially intelligent, but he was able to go inside rooms of Titanic that we had never seen before and see things that we had never seen before. Which is one of my favorite things as a child, was watching National Geographic and watching the deep exploration of the ruins of the ship.
I remember that special.
Yeah, I mean, it was huge.
It's fascinating.
1986 with Ballard.
Well, I caught it on a replay then.
But yeah, I mean, it was just one of my favorite things. And Concerning arts and literature, I've brought Isaac Asimov's I, Robot. If you've seen the movie, you know nothing about this book because they are far apart. And then Prometheus by Ridley Scott, the first installation to the Alien prequel films. What'd you bring?
Well, I would like to recommend a great episode of the original series of Star Trek.
Excellent.
Going back to the 1960s with their viewpoint on artificial intelligence, the episode titled, What Are Little Girls Made Of? In this episode, we have Roger Corby, the renowned scientist, who discovers some ancient alien technology, adapts it, and thinks that he's found a way to transfer human consciousness into an android, essentially creating immortality. Fantastic episode. It's very old at this point, but I'm not going to give out too many spoilers on it, just in case. But it explores some very good topics, such as if you have immortality in a robot, are you still human? Do you lose that humanity? Going back to the talk of emotions in artificial life forms, are they capable of it? Do you have a purpose if you are no longer fully human? So, great episode. Pretty much every episode of that original series of Star Trek is great,
Yeah.
and we will get into that in great detail in a much later episode of this show.
Yes, another time. That's going to be a great one. And honestly, that brings up another good question. Experience. I think experience and purpose is what makes us human, and being able to benefit from our experience and purpose. But our experience comes from perception, which comes from our senses, what we observe, what we hear, what we feel in terms of touch and emotionally. The complexity of the human biological machine is immense, and just there is a level of nurture, but nature also takes its toll in terms of who you are, how you act. And I wonder, I can go and put my hand over a flame and recoil because it's hot. Does a machine have to worry about that?
Good point.
At what point do they pull back? Their tolerance may be, but what does it mean to them? To me, it means that's hot. I should be aware of it. At the same time, I find it warm, which is necessary for me to survive. Later on, human beings found out that it could, make tools that made life easier. So, that's it. It means that and so much more to me. But to a machine, it's made of fire at some level, electricity, however you want to view it. But its metal pieces may be forged from it. What does it mean to it?
Well, the machine could have a sensor in there to tell it the exact temperature of the heat that's coming off. It can be programmed to know its own melting point, and so right before reaching that, it knows to pull back from the heat. But it's following an algorithm. It's following programming there. It doesn't have, as you said, the feeling, the sensation of it.
And we make the programming based off our perception.
Exactly.
So we figured out what its melting point is, and we tell it when it should pull back. So it's a lot to think about, but I just think about the synthesis of the human being from all of these ends, and I'm not sure that we could ever build something that would actually take our place in that regard. The closest thing in science fiction I can think of would probably be the replicants in Blade Runner, being able to actually replicate human beings. Although you would be able to change them here and there. But as a matter of fact, reverting back to China, that's something that's already apparently occurred too, with gene editing. Chinese scientist said that he edited two twin girls, and they theoretically cannot get HIV, genetically speaking. He removed the gene from their genetic code
Wow.
So, and the international medical community just exploded into an uproar with curiosity and outrage for the disregard for the ethics. So that was in the news recently.
That's so controversial because you look at all the good that can come out of it, yet who knows what the long-term ramifications are since it's never been done.
Yeah, that's one of the concerns that some of the doctors had, is the fact that without announcement, these two twin girls have been introduced to the human genetic pool.
Yes. And what happens to them as they grow up?
Yeah, and what are their contributions going to be to that pool?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a multitude of uncertainty on that. But yeah, it's some fascinating things that are happening. But going back to the arts and lit, USA Today actually published a story, and the renowned auction house Christie's sold a painting titled "The Portrait of Edmund Bellamy." The portrait was painted by an algorithm created by a Paris-based collective called Obvious. It sold for $432,500.
For that price, I hope it was framed.
No doubt. I don't think I would have bought it. I've seen it. Not that impressed. Not against it. It looks good. Not that impressed. But yeah, that's a bit A, out of my price range, and B, I would spend it on other things. Yes. The other source that I brought was iRobot, because the book explores the increasingly sophisticated thoughts, questions, and moral complexities of creation. I'm going to read here for a moment. Isaac Asimov is the author of the book. He created 3 laws of robotics in which his AI world run off of. The human creators actually made these laws as the programming of the robots in the series. Law 1. A robot may not harm a human or stand by while a human is harmed. Law 2. A robot must obey orders from humans unless the orders violate Law 1. And Law 3. A robot must protect itself unless doing so means violation of Law 1 or 2. So it's a nice, neat, contained little circle of laws that are related to one another. And, you know, it sounds nice. It sounds very succinct and, you know, bulletproof almost. And then Isaac Asimov set to destroy them with his stories. And he showed in this one particular story of iRobot how, which, yes, we do have this book in the library. I highly recommend it. It's fantastic. It's the first book I ever read when I came here. But the one story had a robot that was put together by 2 guys on a space station, and it was activated. The 2 guys are expecting it to do heavy lifting, you know, manual type stuff around the space station that humans
Robot
can't
stuff.
do. Yeah, do things that we can't do very easily, and, you know, so on and so forth. But the robot instantly starts to ask a succession of questions about who the creator is. And based off the evidence of them versus the robot does not accept that they are the creator because they are inferior. And they say, literally, we built you. And the robot is basically like, sorry, that doesn't compute. Try again. Who's the creator? It was like, you know, stop kidding me. Seriously, you know.
Yes.
And but they run into a multitude of issues with that, and especially being in an environment that's still to humans, such as space, not really something you need to be dealing with on a space station.
No, I would think not.
Yeah, HAL 9000.
Yes.
Then, if you guys haven't seen it, I definitely recommend Ridley Scott's Prometheus and its sequel, Alien Covenant, because it operates very much along the same lines as that story in iRobot about creation, perception. What you're taught and what you learn from other creations is truly terrifying. And it goes into how scary that is to be created and then to assimilate the unpleasantness that you may encounter in the world. But it is just a fascinating series, and I really hope it gets to complete it.
Sounds good. I'll have to check those out.
They're amazing. Highly recommend.
All right. Well, we're going to take a little music break now. John, can you tell us about our featured artist for the week?
Yes, we have a rather unique piece. It was composed by artificial intelligence. Hope you enjoy.
Fascinating. All right, we're going to get into a little bit more of the lighter side of artificial intelligence now. You watch science fiction, and it's always about the evil robots coming to kill us and the AI becoming sentient and taking over. Well, we actually have some real-life examples of how the technology is helping and making things better. First thing I found in this research was a story about a Japanese woman who had some kind of disease problem, and doctors could not figure it out. They worked and worked, and she was just not getting better, not responding to treatments. And IBM found out about this and collaborated with the doctors. They allowed them access to their artificial intelligence system, Watson. Watson, as you will remember, was a former Jeopardy champion. The robot AI was on the show competing against Ken Jennings and I forget the other guy's name. He was their number 2 all-time winner. They originally thought that it was going to be very unfair, so the producers made IBM come up with a robot finger to push the robot button to buzz in.
It's unfair.
Yes. But anyway, Watson, dominated on Jeopardy. Well, to try his hand at medicine, they uploaded the woman's genetic information, all of her test results, all of her blood work. Watson was able to compare it to 20 million clinical studies.
Wow.
After that, it determined that she had just this exceedingly rare form of leukemia. And because they were able to pinpoint it, the doctors developed treatment and saved her life.
That's
she
amazing.
would not have made it without the artificial intelligence.
Wow. Yeah, that right there is definitely a machine's job, I would say. It's being able to analyze everything faster than us.
Absolutely. So there's there's got to be a balance somewhere of man and machine working side by side.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's another interesting story I read out of China again, where they had created an artificial intelligence robot who was able to pass the Chinese medical boards a year ago. Yes, this robot was able to become a fully licensed physician in China. Currently not practicing,
Wow.
but they, proved that it could be done. And I'm assuming their medical boards are more than just a written test, because I have not found of another machine that's been able to pass it and get certified.
Yeah.
But the ability to analyze the information and form a accurate diagnosis. So there again, that's a tool that could really help with modern medicine.
It's very, very true. Shut the bedside manners program.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, another interesting story going back once again to China, the seemingly world leader in this right now. There was a bank that was opened recently, a construction bank. It's China's second largest lender. They opened an automated branch in Shanghai. This branch is completely staffed by robots. You walk in the front door, and there is a door greeter bot. It looks humanoid, has arms. It's holding this little tablet with information. It has a head with a video projected face. It's crazy. It reminds me of Fallout New Vegas. If anyone's played that game, you know what I'm talking about, with the robots, with the big smiley faces. That's what it reminds me of. But anyway, this door greeter bot has voice recognition software. It talks to the customers. It answers questions. You go on through the bank. It's set up like a normal bank would be. You go up to the robot teller, and it is capable of talking to you. It can execute a whole range of services, including opening an account, transferring money, foreign exchange, gold investment. They say that this branch that is completely automated, run by robots, can do 90% of the traditional banking demands.
Does it disarm bank robbers?
Bulletproof robots.
There
You
go.
don't need to worry about it.
The money is safe. Go
Yes.
about your business.
I'm sure they're looking into building like a sheriff robot to guard the bank.
That's okay. The facial recognition would nab them in 2 seconds anyway.
And right there, that's the thing. These robots have facial recognition cameras. If there is a problem, they've got all the data on the person right there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is not the first foray China has had into automated retail or service industries. They have, I forgot the exact number, it's a couple of thousand little convenience stores. They're basically all glass convenience stores, and it's all automated. No one works there. Think of a walk-in vending machine.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yes, yes. Not much in the way of the artificial intelligence there, but it's vending machine technology on steroids.
Yeah. And, kind of in the vein of that, and this reverts back to entertainment, the lighter side, the Daily Mail out of the UK had a story, this has been several years now, but a Japanese director cast, quote unquote, an android actress. Her name was Gemina F. Plays the character Leona in a Japanese film called Sayonara. Gemina F is credited at the end of the film, and it was developed by Osaka University in Western Japan. So
Fascinating.
yeah, it won't be too long. We won't even need to be entertained by real people anymore.
Wow, that's interesting. Of course, the thing is, if it's going to be acting, they've got to give it an influence. Someone wins an award for acting, they always like to thank whoever influenced them. And I think in this case, it's more literal. We took lines from this guy and put it in the algorithm, and lines from this person, and mannerisms.
You could always think Osaka
Yes.
University.
That's something I would actually love to see. I know there are all kinds of legal rights and copyrights and whatnot, but we saw in the Star Wars film the return of Peter Cushing as Grand Moff Tarkin, basically CGI'd into the film.
Yeah, the Rogue One.
Yes, 20 some odd years after he passed away.
Yeah.
I thought that was fantastic. I love Peter Cushing. He's one of my favorite Sherlock Holmes actors. If you've never seen that, check it out. He's fantastic in it.
And Leia.
Yes, and we had Hollow Leia in the film too.
Yeah.
So, at what point can we, start to take celebrities who are no longer with us or, no longer care to act and create an artificial version of them?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, almost 10 years prior, Tron Legacy had Clue as a young Jeff Bridges, who was a CG animated face character.
Yes.
And he was while Peter Cushing's role was, or the CG was minimal in Rogue One with both him and Leia, Clue was the main nemesis in the film. So he was on screen a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very much like Jeff Bridges back, around the days of the original Tron.
Yes.
So, I mean, it was amazing. And it's always one of my favorite things to go back and watch, even with, the little imperfections that I notice here and there. It's still amazing to say, hey, we can do that.
It's very much CGI technology, but it's a precursor to artificial intelligence. We have to develop all of these other technologies before we can reach the ultimate goals with bigger and better ones. And that sort of transitions us to the next topic. Been looking at how sports can be improved by artificial intelligence, namely allowing artificial intelligence to officiate the games. It's becoming to where it's more of a matter of policy and not technology at this point. We have many of the technologies already to make this a reality. The precursor technologies, if you will, that provide the sensory input data for the AI algorithms are already in use. A couple of them I looked at, the Hawkeye system, it's made by Sony, uses multiple high-performance cameras. It tracks and then triangulates the path of a ball. It's supposed to be accurate within 3 6/10 millimeters. Millimeters. So yes, when we're looking at the replay on the camera and we're trying to decide if the ball touched that errant blade of grass that's painted white, it can do that. This system is currently being used in cricket, tennis, and, to give it a little more credibility, soccer. This is the goal line technology that both the Premier League and the Bundesliga use. It was also used in the World Cup. Just helps them determine if the ball has crossed the line or not. If you're not familiar with the rules, in the U.S. we're used to football where you just have to touch the line. In soccer, the ball has to completely cross the line. You've got to see that little bitty sliver of green between the ball and the white line. This has been in use for several years, and they've seen good results from it. It helps to eliminate some of the human error.
Has there been any research into why it's not used? Because one thing that I can readily think of would be those are some pretty hard-charging, tough guys, that'll be stomping over that technology. Is it feasible to have it withstand these men?
That's a great question, and the answer is yes. The technology is very durable. Surprisingly, we don't need that many sensors, that much hardware on the field itself.
That's good.
This Hawkeye system is done by 6 to 7 cameras that are mounted around the field. They have excellent zoom capabilities, so they can see and track things from a distance. There's another one that's being used called Second Spectrum. It's also video tracking technology. It's currently in use by the NBA. This is one that is able to compile all the different images into a 3D spatial view, if you will, including the ball, the players, the referee locations, and their movements.
That's impressive.
It's the kind of technology that's often used as a coaching tool because you can get a better look at the entire play as it's happening, but it also has great potential for actual officiating.
Yeah, it sounds it.
Mm-hmm. Zebra Technologies is working with the NFL right now. Their service uses 2 nickel-sized RFID sensors that go into the shoulder pads of the players. So they're in a protected part of the player's uniform, so that helps with some of the durability issues. These sensors can track the player movements, and we're not just talking about speed and acceleration and how far they've run, but it can track where they are on the field. This, can eventually be used to completely replace the on-field officials, or at least some of them.
Yeah.
Zebra Technologies has also been experimenting with tracking chips in the ball. Last I read, they had not released any of the data, but I know for the 2017 season, they had a chip in the ball through the whole season, just testing the technology.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it really is. A year ago, there was an interview done with MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred. He said the league has been working very hard on a pitch tracking system. And I have a feeling that baseball is where we will see the first artificial intelligence umpire come into play. If you've watched a game, you know how they put that box up in the strike zone, and they can pinpoint where the ball is. That's really about all we need for an umpire, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Where's the strike zone? Where's the ball?
Certain bit of space marked out, and are you there or aren't you?
Exactly. Commissioner Manfred said that the accuracy on their systems is way up. It's improving faster than he expected that it might. And so we are not that far away from something like that potentially taking over and eliminating the human element of calling balls and strikes in baseball. The one thing he said, though, they have to consider this, and this is the argument we always seem to come to with sports and artificial intelligence. The quote from him was, "When you take away the home plate umpire's control over the strike zone, you take away a principal piece of his authority in terms of managing the whole game."
And I would have to say that I definitely agree with that. On the other hand, the lack of integrity of officials on the field concerning things that are obviously, a score or not, is also kind of disheartening. So where do you go from there? I mean, you can lose a key part of the game, but who could be corrupt?
Well, I used to work as a soccer official when I was a teenager. I've got to disagree with Commissioner Manfred on this one. I mean, the umpire's job is to manage the game, make sure it continues to flow. His job is not to control the game. And so if we have an artificial intelligence calling balls and strikes with near 100% accuracy, how is that hurting the game? That's improving the game because the players are getting a more fair
game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's definitely a ball. It's definitely a strike.
Yeah. And it's got a high rate of accuracy.
Yes.
So, you can argue it, but...
I mean, are we going to see the manager come out of the dugout and kick dust at the computer and start screaming at it?
Not if the computer
Maybe.
can do the same.
There we go. We'll put a dust cannon on the computer, blast it at the manager. That's good TV. Well, I mean, the whole part there, the whole point with controlling the game, with the efficiency. In 2015, the NBA began reviewing all calls that the officials made just to evaluate and see how they were doing. They found that in the final minutes of the games, the referees were 86% correct on their calls, which is a nice high number. The thing is, they're 14% wrong. If we can use technology, if we can use some kind of artificial intelligence to bring that 86% up, why would we not do that?
While I'm not opposed to that, on the flip side, concerning that 14%, if the 14% was concentrated at, let's say, one team's home court or concentrated to several teams, I would definitely start having a better look at those teams and who gauged the shot calling if you did want to keep it human, because if it's just an error rate of 14% all across the country at away games, home games, I'd be more willing to tolerate that. But if you're going into, and I'm talking genuine human error, but if you're going into a situation where Oh yeah, the home team wins all the time. Why? Because the refs call it for them all the time. Okay, yeah, that's where there's smoke, there's fire.
That's true, but a lot can happen in that 14% of bad calls.
True.
Ask anyone in the city of New Orleans right now. If there were some sort of AI system in place, then it can detect a helmet-to-helmet contact, and the computer can call a targeting penalty or an unnecessary roughness. Or that's the kind of situation that fits in that 14% that has potentially cost a team a chance to compete for a championship.
Yeah.
So there again, 86% is good. But if a computer can do better, why would we not make adjustments?
Yeah. The last segment that I was going to speak about is the history of AI from Forbes magazine. Have a few little benchmarks, although this right here is an extremely condensed list. There's so many benchmarks dating back to mid-1900s concerning artificial intelligence. But these are some of the highlights. For one, back in 97, Deep Blue defeats world chess champion Garry Kasparov. 2011, you had IBM Watson's Jeopardy victory. Go Watson. 2012, a computer was able to ID the most searched for topic, and it was a cat. They asked it point blank, given all the resources of Google, what is the most popular image on the internet, and it assembled a picture of a cat. 2015, computers can identify objects and visual data more accurately than humans, so that right there could fall into the facial recognition. Again, 60,000 people is a lot to, and you have all the commotion and the excitement of a concert to nab one guy.
Yes.
That's
unbelievable.
Impressive. Yeah. And then in 2016, AlphaGo used neural networks to study the game of chess, and AlphaGo learned as it played. There was a follow-up story to that, which I didn't include in this list, where they have surpassed it to where they don't need to learn as they go anymore. They can automatically look at the board and they understand the rules of the pieces, and they've come up with different strategies that have never been thought of by human beings before. So they learned entirely new ways to outmaneuver outmaneuver human beings and new strategies across the board. So they are learning to pick things up without having to go through trial and error or without having information fed to them. And then, of course, it's pretty well known. In 2018, Google's self-driving cars still hitting the roads. There were a few prototypes that predated 2018, but Google was really striving. I think in Arizona especially, they gave them permission to go on the roadways and do real-world environments with these cars. And they're constantly improving the ability of the car to react. So, despite some accidents here and there.
Well, you did say hitting the road.
Yes. Could be bad.
Yeah, that last one I don't know about. I love that for other people. I love to drive, though. And I actually drive. I won't touch my phone. I don't even turn the radio on most of the time. I like driving.
Yeah.
I still like to shift my own gears.
Yes, I concur.
Yes.
I love manual transmission vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Just they're fantastic, and you also have more direct control over them concerning like weather and things like that. If you need to downshift, you can do it and get more control over
Absolutely.
the RPMs. But the only way that I could see this vehicle being of great use is if you're going to fall asleep at the wheel, yet you still want to, say, be in Florida overnight, to have it take over for that. But then I, ask myself questions of, is there an alarm clock if you're about to run out of gas? You haven't seen, been awake to see where the last gas station was, or maybe you missed a sign that said no gas for however long, it's like...
Well, it actually wouldn't be that difficult to program the car to where you can tell it your favorite gas station, and whenever you hit a quarter tank, it pulls off the interstate and starts beeping to wake you up to get out and pump.
Then again, I'm also an idiot. This is Google we're talking about here. They have what people used to pay for with GPS in your phone. It's obviously going to be integrated in the car.
Absolutely.
I'd like to apologize to the audience. I'm a complete moron.
Yeah, Google is quite good at what they do.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, side note on that, they really helped me out whenever I went to Ireland last year.
Really?
Because, I had my phone. I was just going to use it on Wi-Fi. I kept it in airplane mode the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever tried to navigate the streets in Dublin, you can't do it. I found out while I was there, Google Maps uses the GPS in your phone instead of the cellular data. Nice. And so I was able to use Google Maps all around Ireland, and it was very easy to navigate things then.
That's fantastic.
Yes. So, I'm sure Google is going to integrate the GPS technology into the cars, and, it could be a great thing. Yeah. Get in your car at night and say, take me to Panama City Beach. Go to sleep and wake up there.
Yep.
We're a couple of years away on that, but
it would be really, really nice.
The technology is there.
However, there have been those moments where, the technology told me, it's like, turn left now, and I look over, there's a brick wall, and I'm not turning left. It's like, I'm just not doing it. So there are those moments that might cause me a little bit of a sleepless night. I may sleep with one eye open, just checking. But I'd say overall, especially on interstates, straightaways, major highways, is probably okay.
Absolutely.
Probably okay.
Interesting things. It's going to be fascinating to see where we are in a few years. Well, that's all our time for today. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of A Cup of Madness talking about artificial intelligence, and we hope you'll join us next time.
Take care.